Everybody, welcome to Mayor's Night Out. Thank you for coming out. Thank you to Kenwood Elementary School and Principal Mary Beth Nicolau. Thank you very much. As you all know, this is a traveling forum. We go all over the city. I really appreciate Kenwood School making us feel welcome. I want to remind you all that this is airing live. It's live today, right, Jake? Good. Live on GoHammond.com, or excuse me, GoHammond.tv. If you ever can't make it to a Mayor's Night, you can log in live, just like the community access channels we used to have. And we also archive them on GoHammond.tv. You know, we have GoHammond.com as our website. You go to GoHammond.tv, and every meeting you want to watch is there, I promise. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce your 4th District Councilman, Bill Emerson. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, Mayor. I was handed this to announce, and it's great to be here on this side of the fence for a change, feel what it's like. I tried to sit in the back, but they said you got to get up here. The Indy Neighborhood Crime Watch will meet Tuesday, March 6th at 7 p.m. The First United Methodist Church, 6635 Holman Avenue. Use the east entrance behind the church. And so that's my major announcement.
Thanks, Bill. I'd like to remind everybody, thanks, Councilman. Old habits die hard. I'm good with titles, so congratulations, Bill. This is his first Mayor's Night. So I want to remind everybody, this meeting is driven by your questions. So in the back, I have Megan in the back. Megan's back there. If you have a written question, that's how we generate topics, all right? And once we get onto a topic, we stay on topic. And if you have questions about that topic, you can raise your hand. So if we're talking about, I don't know, state line issues and you want to bring up state line issues, just raise your hand. If you want to talk about another issue about garbage collection or something like that, we'd ask that you do a written question, okay? That's how we do it. Like I said, it's aired on GoHammond TV. Let's go ahead and start. I'd like to reintroduce Michelle Turchaney, who's our special events coordinator. This is her second meeting in that position. And I'd also like to thank and recognize our former special events coordinator, who is probably there she is, right in the front row, Donna Muta. Thank you very much, Donna. She doesn't make it to Mayor's Night very often because she has an early morning job now. So she's running the park field operation. So thank you very much for coming out. I'd also like to thank the elected officials that came out tonight. First off, Hammond City Clerk Robert Golick. Thank you very much, Clerk Golick. Okay, we got Councilman at Large, Dan Spitali. Thank you very much, Councilman. 5th District Councilman Michael Pinker. He's also the Council President. Councilwoman at Large Janet Venez. Great. I think I got all the elected officials. Besides 4th District Councilman Bill Emerson, again, thank you very much, Councilman. And we're going to go ahead and introduce the department heads. These all represent the various city departments. If you have an issue with anything that we do, you have a representative sitting before you. So we're going to start over here with Awana.
Awana Miller, Community Development. Michelle Selgin, Housing.
Ed Prusa, Hammond Water.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Alexius Barber, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Bob Lendy, Controller's Office.
Africa Tarver, Economic Development.
Courtney Sazwa, College Bound.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel.
Jeff Smith, Fire Department.
Brian Miller, Police Department.
Mylon Krasinski, Port Authority.
Phil Taylor, Planning and Development.
Bill Emerson, 4th District Councilman.
Tom Daverton, Chief of Staff.
Stan Dostotny, City Engineer.
Ron Novak, Environmental.
Brian Poland, City Planning.
Jim Callahan, Inspections Department.
Lolita Weems, Human Relations.
Scott Mitchell, Sewer Department.
Kurt Cook, Building.
Kelly Kearney, Code Enforcement.
Steve Fowler, Recycling.
Johnny Perez, Sanitation.
Timothy Wood, Street Department.
Chris Cantar, City Attorney.
Michelle Turchaney, Hammond Parks.
All right, there you have it. It's all covered up here. Again, I'd like to remind you, if you only have a couple questions, I think we only have a couple right now. We'll have a really short meeting, and that's not going to break my heart, but it may break some of your hearts. So I want to remind you again, if you want to drive the discussion, we need written questions, and Megan's in the back. So Michelle, why don't we go ahead and start?
Okay, our first one is, what plans do you have to help businesses north on Calumet Avenue?
How about, do you mind going to the person that asked that, and maybe we could further elaborate? Get your microphone ready, Phil, wherever you are. So, all right.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. My name's Joanne. I'm the
Hi,
general
Joanne.
manager for the White Castle down by Chicago
Okay.
and Calumet Avenue. Okay, everything's being done for Holman and Indianapolis. We need something to be done to bring business down to our end, too. Is there any plans? that
You're
you-
in now,
Yeah, by
we're always open. I mean, believe me. You know, Phil, why don't you go ahead and talk? This is Phil Talon, who's the head of planning and development.
Absolutely. I don't know if you're aware of the Southern Shores of Lake Michigan plan, but this is something that's been in the works for quite a while now. I want to say approximately about 4 months. And this plan is specific to your area. It includes Calumet Avenue, Indianapolis Boulevard, the Robertsdale area. It has some of Whiting in it as well. We're actually working together with Whiting on this plan. But this plan is a comprehensive plan that is going to look at this entire corridor and see what can be done for this area. Robertsdale has had a lot of money put into it over the last maybe 2 years with the RDA money that's gone in, some of those projects. We also had, of course, the grand opening of the Walmart in Robertsdale, which has been a huge success. We've done some demolition projects along Indianapolis Boulevard, which the White Castle actually touches Indianapolis Boulevard, correct? That's
No, she's talking about Calumet and Chicago.
Or Calumet and Chicago.
Right,
Calumet and
Northwest.
Chicago Avenues.
Right. Right. I mean,
Okay.
and you know, although I mean, we were involved in Nick's Liquor, but that's not a real big victory because it was there before and it's there now, and that's fine, and it looks a lot nicer than the old one, but still, it's not a big victory. I think we could all agree. It's, you know, something that was good for Nick's Liquor, but you know, 312, that whole project right there is about to be redone, which hopefully, in fact, we just took ownership of 312, the entire length in Hammond from the state of Indiana, from INDOT. You know, Chicago Avenue is going to be completely renovated. In fact, when we pass the microphone to Stan Destotny, our city engineer, he could talk about that. You know, although I can't point to a specific economic development project, the project that we're doing soon here, maybe it'll help develop that area. So, Stan?
Yeah, the Chicago Avenue project, we've actually taken control of the roadway from the state of Indiana. We got a federal grant and we got a state grant. The project's worth almost $20 million. It's going to include total reconstruction of Chicago Avenue from the East Chicago line over to Calumet, and then reconstruction of Chicago Avenue over to Holman. We're going to get rid of that 90-degree turn. We're going to put a nice gentle curve in there, and then we're going to put in a traffic circle at Goslin and Sheffield, which is that old state route. Real attractive entrance into the city from the west side. We're going to redo Goslin all the way over to state line. So there should be some major improvements. We're in the process. We have just selected the engineer that's going to start design work, and then we're waiting on the state because there is federal dollars involved, so the state still has some involvement in it to approve the contract documents. But we should be starting on that relatively quick.
And that's a $20 million project?
It's about a $20 million project.
It's gonna be a lot nicer, and it's a really good deal for us on the short term. On the long term, I don't know how good of a deal it is, but the state made a deal with us that they would basically help us fund that entire project. It's a great project. Maybe that'll help. I know Tom wanted to touch on something that's not directly in that neighborhood, but it's close by at West Point.
It's nearby. Do you know where the West Point Industrial Park is? Okay, we've got Munster Steel is going in there. We've already announced that. That development will begin later this year, early next year. We have a couple of other companies that are interested in going in that immediate area. And of course, those employees, these are manufacturing jobs, so they're going to employ a number of people. Those employees should also help boost sales in your immediate area.
Yeah. Well, those are active tracks, you know. But, you know, I mean, I can't really take that intersection and say, you know, I mean, it's a busy intersection, too. You got the gas station, you got Nick's, you got the White Castle, the you know, Dunkin' Donuts, and then McDonald's and Taco Bell across the street. But I think, you know, what Stan talked about with 312 with Chicago Avenue, that's a great project for Hammond in the short term, and hopefully it'll excite some of the developers out there. Okay? Thank you for your question. I'm glad we got to, you know, refine it a little bit more. Is there any other questions about that issue? Okay. Michelle?
Okay, our next question is, or comment, school speed zones should be monitored more. Question mark.
Okay. Brian Miller, getting ready to talk here. School speed zones should be enforced more. And obviously we're at Kenwood, and I'd like to point out, we worked with the Indiana Crime Watch about a year ago, actually, and did a lot of improvements in this school for safety considerations. You know, I don't know if they're talking about Kenwood particularly, or and maybe we could refine the question a little bit more. Yeah. Well, part of the reason Hammond High is a madhouse, and I agree. I get the front row seat of Hammond High when they let out every day. I'm literally second floor watching all the students come out. I actually saw a student get hit one year.
I don't even go in the parking lot. It's that bad.
Oh, no, it's crazy. I agree with you. You know, but the problem is about traffic on by Hammond High. It's only because Klein Avenue shut down. It's markedly worse and more dangerous because instead of a little car hitting a kid, it's going to be a semi with steel coils hitting a kid. And that just goes on to point out in the little ways how important Klein Avenue was to this region, and unfortunately nobody in Indianapolis cares when we say that. But Hammond High is a more dangerous place when school lets out because of that. Now, it puts a tremendous challenge on Chief Miller and the police department, and they enforce Calumet Avenue a lot, because like I said...
Actually, Mayor, that's our number one targeted area.
I tell you, I know
we write more citations there.
Rob Taylor, right?
Yes, sir.
Is he the one at the top?
He is the absolute number
I
one.
think he pulls people over in front of my office on purpose so that people could see me, but he literally pulls people over hundreds of times, right?
I actually got a complaint the other day. He stopped the same woman 3 times and wrote her 3 different times for speeding in that particular zone. So she said, what should I do about this? And I told her, slow down.
Right. Well, Chief, I guess there was a general complaint about, how do you guys approach school zones, the police department? Not necessarily this one, just in general.
We try to go out in the mornings early, obviously, and try to enforce them as people are going to school. And then we also try to get out in the afternoon. Most of our enforcement is in the morning. We just have more traffic at that time. Obviously, you also have the commuter traffic along with the student traffic. But we do that each and every day. If there's a specific school you want me to monitor, I'll make sure the guys are out there tomorrow.
Kenwood
they're out
and
every single
Hammond High
morning.
was
That would be great, Hammond High,
Okay.
because like I said, they even park in the turning lane right there on Highland.
Morning or afternoon?
Afternoons.
Your choice.
It is
Okay.
crazy.
Afternoons
They'll be
are
out there
really
tomorrow
bad.
in the afternoons.
I'll tell you, I quit going past Kenwood to go to work because, I mean, these people, they get mad when you go slow. I've been flipped off and everything else, and, you know, cases of road rage even, because I'm going too slow, and I'm still doing like 25 and when it's flashing, it's only supposed to be 20 miles an hour.
Yep.
I understand. Every morning I go down Holman to come to work, and I have people pass me, and I'm in a black and white car. So, can't figure people.
Anyway, anybody have any other questions about school zones, safety in school zones? I see representatives from the Indiana Crime Watch here. Do you guys have anything? I mean, we literally, I thought it was really neat when the Crime Watch approached the city and had specific complaints, and we worked with them on specific things and got it done within a few months, which was really nice. I know the Crime Watch felt really good about it, and so we're all ears if we could do something. And I think in that case, it was just common sense stuff that they were asking. It was easy for us to do because it just made sense. And you know, I hate to say it, but I don't really drive by Kenwood in the morning because I'm dropping my kids off also. You know, so we appreciate your input. If you see a dangerous situation, point it out to us, and I promise you, we always look into it. We may not always agree with you, but we'll always look into it, okay? All right, yeah, Sarah?
I've had the same problem with people getting angry at me when I'm going 20 miles an hour when the yellow lights are flashing. But do you remember the police posters that you gave us, the like this? I have one of those in my car, and when they do that to me, I hold that up to them.
That's a lot nicer than what most people hold up, so.
They change their attitude when they see that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know if I'm a cop or what's going on. So, thank you for those. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate working with you. Any other issues about this? All right, thanks. Moving right along.
I have a question for Chief Miller.
Okay.
Safety is the first concern of all citizens. Due to budget constraints in 2012, how does Chief Miller plan on keeping our neighborhoods safe?
First, we're going to have a bake sale. Good question. You know what? Each and every year, the 8 years that I've been in office and the mayor's been in office, we've had to make some cuts, unfortunately. Not everything's perfect, and with our economy right now, in the tax collection the way it is, I can't have everything that I want. 8 years ago, I went to the mayor and said that we need more police officers, and at that time we approached the council, And we really didn't have the funding to hire 10 more police officers like I wish. But he got together with Dan Repay and he asked if there was some way we could use the casino money to fund extra units. And that's what we do each and every evening. From 6 p.m. to about 2 a.m. we have extra units in each and every district, and that's funded by casino money. In the past years, we've cut different things like, well, for instance, last year in 2011, we didn't order any cars. And I have a 166 car fleet. And the patrol cars that we have, our frontline patrol cars, put about 50,000 miles a year on a car. So it was hard. I mean, it was a tough cut, but it was something that we had to do to try to make our ends meet also. I have the largest budget in the city, and you know, I always argue the most important. Sorry, no offense, but so we did have to make some cuts. This year, what we did cut, we had the same core special duty units every night from 6 to 2 a.m., but there were some separate ones. We had one specifically for Indiana. We had two that were in Hessville that were specifically for that area, and there was one more for Columbia Center area. And we did cut those out because we didn't get the same Henry unit money or special duty unit money that we had gotten in the past. So what am I going to do?
When we took over, you and I, in 2004, January 1st, when we took over, how much was budgeted for overtime for the police department every year?
Sorry, I don't remember. Probably about 600,000.
It was 600? I didn't think it was that high.
It might not have been that high. It might
you remember,
have been
Bobby?
About 400.
City Controller Extraordinaire?
Mayor, I think it was 200,000 or 300,000.
That's what I thought.
I stand corrected.
No, and I mean, and the thing is, I want to point that out because a lot of people are focusing on, well, last year, Chief Miller, you got 1.5 million in overtime money, and this year you're only getting $1 million. And you could say you got cut in overtime $500,000. I look at it different. I look at it January 1st, 2004, when I took over, the police department only had 200,000 in overtime, and now they have $1 million, which is 500% increase in overtime. And we've seen what happens as a result of that, right? Because the crime stats are going in the right direction.
Yes, last year they went down. Yes, that's correct. It's not, again, I'm glad for what I have. Certainly, I wish I had more. We all do. Everyone up here wishes their department had more. We will do more with less, and we're just going to have to stretch our patrol units. Right now we have about 12 officers that have just gotten out of the academy or are still currently in academy. They're all going to the patrol division when they get out, and hopefully that will help us a lot. We'll actually be able to add about 4 officers to each different shift, so that should take care of some of it. Other than that, we'll stretch the units that we have right now, the Henry units that we have out on the street, from 6 to 12. We're going to expand their territories, and we're just going to do the best that we can to do double coverage.
And I mean, I read newspapers for a living. It's basically part of my job. And I know that even, quote unquote, the safe communities are struggling with crime right now. And the fact is, at 210 officers, we have one of the biggest departments in the state of Indiana. And quite frankly, we're having a pretty good year so far. I mean, I don't like to brag, but we are having a good year so far, right, Chief?
Agreed. And we have more police officers on the street than any other city in Lake County. And to include Gary, that has a 240-man police department.
Right. But it's still unacceptable when you talk to the residents and they had a break-in on their block, like my neighborhood did, literally last week. And you talk to the residents that had a break-in and you say, it's frustrating, I agree with you. You know, there was a house across the street from my house that was broken into last week. It makes you feel unsafe. It makes you feel violated. I agree. But is the answer to park a police car on my block? I'm the mayor. I guess I could do that. Do you have a police car parked on my block, Chief Miller?
On your block? No, sir.
Yes, sir.
On my block, yes, because I live there.
Right, yeah. But on my block?
No, sir, we do not.
Have we ever?
No, sir. Halloween we did, because of the Knickerbocker Parkway.
Right. That's where everybody goes, right?
That was the only time.
But the fact is, if we parked a police car on my block, the mayor, I think I could legitimately say I think a police car should be parked on my block for safety reasons. I could say that. I don't. But if I did, he would have one less officer driving around the city to protect you guys too. And it's not fair. And I'm not trying to pick on a neighborhood. It's just we're trying to use manpower more efficiently because that's what we have to do. Chief?
I agree, Mayor. We're going to, like I said, we're going to do more with less. And we'd always like to have more, but we will do with what we have. And I'm very appreciative that we have as much as we can. I'll tell you what, if Hammond didn't have a riverboat like we do and got the casino money, our police department, like a lot of other police departments, would be in trouble. There's police departments in Indiana that are laying off police officers or not hiring ones when they lose.
I'm not trying to be dramatic. The Hammond Police Department costs $25 million a year.
25.
we got 30 million a year in property tax revenue. Chief Miller's department costs 25 million, and we have 30 million in our hand. So we pay him the first 25 million. I got 5 million left for every other department. That doesn't work. And of course, you want to keep Chief Miller fully staffed. And by the way, Chief Smith's over here. And you have a pretty important department, the Hammond Fire Department, right? $16 million budget. He wants to be fully staffed, right, Chief? Right? So I say, Chief Smith, sorry, I got to fund the police department fully. And Chief Smith says, well, what about fire? Okay, 25 plus 15 is 40. I'm 10 million upside down already, just in police and fire. Tim Woods, could you raise your hand? Tim Woods works for the Hammond Street Department. Pretty important department, right? When it's snowing, it's important. What is that? What's the answer? Spend all my money on these two guys and lay everybody else off? I guarantee you when it snows, you're not going to be happy. Or when your garbage is piling up, you're not going to be happy. We have to do what we have to do. We're not mean-spirited against the fire department. I'm not mean-spirited against Chief Miller. We're broke. We're trying to do everything we can to keep the lights on. And we're using gaming money, and that's not ideal. We are using gaming money, and that's not ideal. Chief just brought it up. If we didn't have the riverboat, Chief Miller, you would not have 210 Hammond police officers.
Correct.
Jeff Smith wouldn't have 150 firemen. It would probably be half of that. And we would have to do it. So we're lucky that the Horseshoe Casino is here. But leaning on that gaming money is not good. Leaning on that gaming money is not an ideal situation. What happened in Joliet? Joliet was leaning on that gaming money, and our casino burned to the ground. And guess what happens? You're laying off cops, you're laying off firemen, because you got into a situation where you're leaning on an unstable source of revenue. And that's what casino money is. It's an unstable source of revenue right now. It's good right now because people are gambling, but we've seen the revenues, and they're going down each and every year. And if they open a boat in Chicago, it's going to go down even more. And if we're totally relying on that gaming money, I am negligent as a mayor. I may not even be the mayor when this happens. I would be a negligent mayor if we were just totally leaning on that gaming money and I passed it off to the next mayor and something happens, Chicago opens a casino, the gaming money tubes out, and the next mayor's got a mess. Why? Because I didn't do my job. And I'm doing it. And it's not easy, and it's not popular. I got firemen going and knocking on doors and telling people the mayor doesn't care for you. Do you think I like that? It's horrible. But I have to do this. I'm doing the right thing, and that's always the hardest thing to do. The right thing is always the hardest thing to do. Sorry, I went off.
Quite all right. I hope that answered the question. Like I said, we're just going to have to do more with less, like all the other departments.
Bobby?
I was going to just add on, sorry. When Brian said when Chief Miller said we hired 12 new kids and sent them through the academy, it wasn't to replace 12 retirees. I believe we only had 7 retirees last year. And then in the beginning of June, for the second half of 2011, the mayor made the decision to expand the department by 5 officers at the end, and that's we had that end of the year hiring. Right, so that's part of the compensation for the decrease in the Henry unit is we increased the staffing in the police department by 5 full-time officers that are patrolling, 40 hours a week apiece all throughout the city.
I was just talking to a retired Hammond police officer today. I'm not going to name his name, but he's a very respected member of the community, okay? And we were just talking, and he was venting, I was venting, and I was picking his brain. He was, he's retired. He was 20 years ago, he was an active police officer. I said, hey, when you were a police officer, how many officers worked with you at that time? He said 206. I said, really? We got more officers now than we did then. By the way, in the last 20 years, we've lost a lot of residents. So if you look per capita, our staffing has actually gone up because we have 210, 211 officers right now. All right? It's a tough situation, guys. And I'm sure there's more questions. So why don't we just go ahead and open it up? This is a tough issue. And I know representatives from Indy are here, and I'm sure they're not happy to hear what I'm saying. And but I mean, give me credit for being honest because I'm just trying to lay it on the table. Okay? Is the answer to totally lean on gaming money? If you guys tell me, Mayor, I don't care about the cost, lean on that gaming money, don't complain when we can't get your streets done. Don't complain when we can't do the park projects we used to do because it's going to be all going towards our budget. I don't think that's a good idea. But I'm all ears because I tell you, the people that are marching around the city right now, that's what they want. They may not say that, but when we say we don't want this truck to go down, what they're saying is fund it with gaming money. That's what they're saying. Fund it with gaming money. That's an easy answer, by the way. The libraries, we went through this during my election. The libraries were shutting down the satellites, right? God bless them. They're wonderful people, the Hammond Library, the people that work for them. God bless them. But what was their first instinct? When the library branches were shutting down, their first instinct was show up to mayor's night, confront the mayor, get them to commit gaming money. I notice a certain theme because I'm the one that always get asked. If I said yes every single time, we'd have none left. And there would be no infrastructure projects going on in Hammond. And that's not good. I think we're doing the right thing. And it's hard because I don't like to look people that used to be my friend in the face, and they're not my friends anymore. Welcome to being the mayor. So I'm sure there's other questions. So, no? I'm more than willing to go past this topic. So, yeah.
Klein Avenue, I've been keeping up on
what's
been going on, but what have you been doing with the other mayors? Have you been working together to
That's
help
sort of a different
resolve
topic,
it?
if you don't mind. I don't mind talking about Klein Avenue, but I would sort of like to focus on the budget right now, if that's all right. I will come back to that, though. Okay? You mind? I have a feeling there's other people who want to talk about the budget, so, all right? In fact, I know one right behind you, so I'll come back to that, I promise, okay?
I wasn't clear on whether or not we aren't going to have any more Henry units, or they're just going to be given a wider patrol area.
We have Henry units as we speak, Ms. Foster.
Okay.
Chief?
There's one in each district, including our district, the one that you and I live in. We used to have one specifically for Indielli, 5 nights a week or 6 nights a week. That one we will not be able to fund. In the past, Councilwoman Poland, who's sitting behind you, used to give us a little extra gaming money so that we could afford that one. So I don't have money for that. I have a little extra. We're going to have a little bit extra, so we'll see what we can do. Again, I'll try to stretch it the best that I can. There's a couple, maybe we won't have a couple Sunday nights, especially during the colder weather, because that's really our quietest night, and we can kind of bank some money so the warmer nights in the summer we'll get added patrols through there.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of it. You know, whereas when the money was flowing, Chief Miller would say, hey, we're going to schedule on Sunday. We have a normal complement of Henry officers, right?
And we can cut, some of the shifts were 6-hour shifts. We're going to make some of them 5 hours and 4 hours. And, you know, obviously towards the summer when it gets warmer and that, we can kind of use those hours up also. So we're going to do the best that we can for you, Sarah. Obviously, I live in that area, so I have a vested interest also. And we'll make sure. So we'll make sure also the district patrol, the regular patrols, my regular street guys make extra passes and that. So we will do the absolute best we can to cover that area.
Chief, let me ask you a question, a big picture, and it really is sort of bigger than the issue we're talking about with the budget. That particular neighborhood over there is night and day compared to what it was 8 years ago? Because, yes. I mean, I say because of the curb.
Absolutely.
Because that was obviously something I'm known for is the curb.
Sure.
Do you believe that had a big impact on crime?
And I applaud their efforts to keep it that way. It is a nice, quiet area.
Absolutely.
A lot of it because of the curb, some of it because of our crime watch. We have a lot of people out in that area that if they see anything suspicious, they call us, and that's a huge help. That's how we catch. That's how we solve crimes. So yes, it's definitely improved. I'd like to put, like the mayor said, I'd like to put a police officer on every corner, but unfortunately that's not realistic. And we try to do the best that we can with the officers that we have.
As a mayor, I always feel like we Hammond people are in a really good spot with police because we have more manpower than cities like Munster and Highland and Dyer and Valparaiso. I think Valparaiso has 2 murders already this year, and it's a very safe community. Most people associated with it. I mean, but the thing we always have here in Hammond is 210 police officers continuously driving around the city. It's like a war, and it's going to be a war for a long, long time because these people, that are breaking the law are bad people, and as long as we have those soldiers out there, which we do, I think we're going to be one of the cities that the criminals want to avoid. I really do. I want to make them feel unwelcome, and I know that's how the chief approaches his job too. Don't make them feel welcome here. Make them go back to where you came from, or go away, or just get out of here. Just leave us alone. And if I'm a criminal and I see Hammond that has 210 police officers and a bunch of overtime money, I would start thinking twice about breaking the law in Hammond. I think that's where we're coming from. I don't try to put words in your mouth.
Absolutely. When we roll up on a major call, we roll up 2 and 3 cars deep, and I know it has an impression on the neighborhood. So people often comment to me that they see a lot of black and whites out in the community, and I think that is important for 2 reasons. It's a deterrent to crime, and it also makes your citizens feel safer when they see a lot of police officers driving around.
Cool. Thanks. Any other questions about crime, budgets? Great. Let's talk about Klein Avenue. All right. And I didn't mean to be rude to you, sir. It's just we always try to just stay on topic, okay? Klein Avenue situation, I'll give you my best guess on where we're heading. It's going to be built. It's going to be a toll bridge. I really think that that's going to be what happens. I don't think it's a victory myself. There's some people that are celebrating. I'm not. I think it's treating us with disrespect. I've been on Facebook. I'm pretty active, and I put on there about 6 months ago a bridge in New Albany that goes over. It's 65. It goes from New Albany to Louisville, Kentucky. The Sherman-Minton Bridge failed, and it was obviously a major artery. 80,000 cars per day. All right, which is bigger than Klein Avenue Bridge. Let's be honest. All right, but that bridge shut down, and within 6 months, it's reopened. They had to shut it down and rebuild it and spend millions of dollars on it, and it just reopened last week. And I put a little sarcastic comment on my Facebook like, bravo, NDOT, you guys sure could rebuild bridges when you put your mind to it. I'm being sarcastic because they're not putting their mind to it. They don't want to rebuild that bridge. And if they do, it's not going to be with their money. They're going to, this firm out of Florida is going to, called the FIG Group, is going to rebuild that bridge, and they're going to charge us tolls. Stan, do you have any idea what the tolls are?
I don't know right offhand what it's going to be. They've been talking anywhere from $1 up to $2.
Per trip?
Yeah.
So you go on both ways, all right? And I tell you, and I've been saying this, and I'm going to stick to it, I will never, ever pay that toll. And I use that bridge a lot. For me and where I live, it's a lot easier to get to Robertsdale, North Hammond by taking Klein Avenue. It was before they shut it down. And I know for those that live in Hessville, same issue. I will never, ever use that toll bridge. It's totally disrespectful to us. If it was any part of the state other than Lake County, it would have been rebuilt without a question. And I don't make friends downstate when I say that, but it's the truth. And there were people that could have helped us early on, and they sold us out. I'm not going to name names, but I know who they are, and they know who they are. There was a lot of people that sold us out early. I was not one of them. I protested the governor in Gary, Indiana. Don Amuta was there, and we were warmly received by the Gary Police Department. They almost arrested us. Literally, we were not welcome to protest the governor in Gary over the Klein Avenue Bridge. They almost arrested us. A number of people were there. It was not a friendly atmosphere. They said, stay on the sidewalk. If you step 1 foot off the sidewalk, we will arrest you. And we did. We protested them. It didn't make a lick of difference. It's cool now to hate the Klein Avenue Bridge, but back then, there was very few people fighting it. We were. So, and I don't know what to say. I think it's disrespectful, but you know, we talked about the problems that we're having in the city with all this north-south traffic that used to take that takes the boulevard or takes Calumet now, falls on deaf ears and NDOT.
Well, that's another question I got too. I mean, you were talking about all this, you know, I know the budget's hard right now, but you're talking about redoing 312. You took it over from the state, but yet we have this 9-span bridge, and it's in such bad shape.
Well, there's the good
for
thing.
use.
They've programmed money for that, and I'm going to pass off to Stan. The thing what the state does is they program money years in advance. And the money for 9-span's always been programmed, but what happened with the Klein Bridge was it was not supposed to go out when it did. So there's no money programmed for that bridge. So when it broke, they spent all the major moves money already. So where are you going to come up with $100 million to build a new bridge? By the way, Governor Daniels just found like $300 million, and no mention of rebuilding the bridge, by the way.
Yeah, it's like, where's our share of that, you know?
$300
it's
million.
Like Lake County, they just forget all about us when it comes to money.
Stan?
You know.
9-span, what's the deal with 9-span right now?
9-span is going to be reconstructed starting late this year. They've got an October bid date. The bad thing is they're going to have to take it totally out of service for up to 18 months while it's being rebuilt. So 18 to 20,000 cars are going to be looking for alternate routes.
Calumet, that White Castle is going to be getting some business, though.
Yeah, 9-span, they didn't really have much of a choice because it's like ready to fail. It's like 87 years old. And in fact, they were out there just before winter inspecting it, like from head to toe to make sure that it would last through the winter. It's got plates welded on it all over the place, just to hold it together.
My kids drive on that bridge every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, any other questions on Klein Avenue? Okay, thanks for the question, sir. All right.
Okay, we have a new topic. The General Assembly is working hard to increase property taxes on affordable housing. Does the city have a plan to address this grave issue downstate?
I am a very active mayor in the General Assembly, and I have no idea what this is talking about. I'm down there a lot. You know, we have something that they want, which is the gaming revenue. So every year when we go down to the General Assembly, I'm playing defense, protecting Hammond's gaming revenue, and we've been very successful so far. We have a good lobbying team. I'm not sure where this is coming from, so maybe we could go to the person and...
It just says licensed realtor.
Okay. Oh, Ms. King. Do you have like a House bill or a Senate bill, Ms. King?
As a licensed realtor, we've all received notice regarding this potential increase in property taxes, dealing primarily with tax credits, building new affordable housing. In the event a city does it, that there is a potential. I did bring the letter here.
Is that Senator Rogers' amendment you're talking about?
She's part of it.
Is that what she's talking about?
But we received it from the Indiana.
It was the same thing, right, Bob?
Development,
I think we may know what you're talking about, Ms. King. There's a bill, an amendment that Senator Rogers made, where she was trying to use a tax credit, low-income tax credit, I think is where you're coming from, to pay for busing, and I don't think that's going to get the time of day downstate.
But it affects any tax credits that we might use to build affordable housing, especially Hammond Housing.
Right.
They're the ones that really use the tax credits for affordable housing. In the event there's any future development in that area, it would affect us.
I could tell you, Ms. King, that my lobbyists don't support that at all. I don't think it's going to pass. If it did, I could see you being concerned as a realtor. I don't think it's going to pass. It's an amendment, and it was an idea. What the problem is this, and I'm going to say something to you all, and it shouldn't shock anybody because we've been talking about it. The regional bus authority is shutting down. It's shutting down in June. There's no money left. This is a fact. Don't be surprised when the buses stop rolling. We've tried multiple times to find a funding source. It's just not there. Ms. King brought up an issue. I think what she's talking about is Senator Rogers tried to revive the bus issue with an amendment using the low-income tax credit to fund the buses. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think what we have to get used to is if you are a person that uses the regional bus authority or you know somebody that does, don't be surprised because this is shutting down. And it's a failure of government. By the way, not a failure of us. We did the right thing. They created a regional bus authority. I worked with the council, and we gave our busing to the regional bus authority. We gave them money for a couple of years, and they were supposed to have everything straight. This is something created by Governor Daniels. We did the right thing, and it's failing now. And now we're in such a tight situation, we can't go out and buy a bunch of buses and hire a bunch of people to start the bus system. I don't know if this was the plan from the start or not, but I'm telling you that buses are stopped. They're not going to be running as of July. In fact, Brian Poland, you don't get many chances to talk. Why don't you grab a microphone real quick? This is Hammond City Planner, who also serves on the Regional Bus Authority. Brian, could you give us a date, a timeline as far as the future of the RBA?
Well, as you said, I mean, the official date that we're hearing is the June 30th. We were actually supposed to have a meeting today, and it got canceled because the staff went down to the General Assembly, probably to talk about this. So I don't really have the most current information, but as far as the board's concerned, we are waiting for the staff to present to us actually a shutdown plan so we know exactly how we're going to do this. We're going to be doing some type of campaign or information to let everybody know, but that's really in its infancy at this point.
It's a travesty, it really is. And it's a failure of government. Total failure of government. It's not compassionate at all. There's people that need these buses, and they're being completely ignored. I don't know what to tell you. It's not right what's happening, but we were asked to regionalize our buses, and we did. We were the only city that did it, by the way, and we're being penalized for it now. And we did what we were supposed to do, and it's a failure of government. That's really, I don't know what else to say. It's just not a happy thing. But I think that's what Ms. King was talking about. So, any other questions on busing or low-income tax credits? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. King had another question.
HUD requires that any first-time home buyer who wants to purchase a home to complete a certified 8-hour home buyer education workshop. Has UNI or the City of Hammond suspended these workshops? If so, could you explain why, and will they continue in the future?
Good. I saw Alexius. Where is she? Oh, there you are. Hey, Alexius, how's it going? This is Alexius Barber. She is the head of United Neighborhoods Incorporated. Could you please answer this question?
Sure. As of right now, no, they have not been suspended, but due to budget cuts, UNI is no longer able to fund the workshop, so we were partnering with Hammond Housing. As of today, the counselor over there is no longer there, but I talked to Mr. Dabberton, and they are looking to have a replacement soon.
Okay. Bill, do you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Hammond Housing Authority had a person named Claudia who was offering the courses, and now that she's no longer going to be doing that, we potentially either are going to have to look at a waiver for the time being until we get somebody else in there that could actually teach the courses. But what we're going to do is talk to HUD, see what other HUD certified trainers there are in this area, and see if we can send people to those.
So this is something that just came up recently?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
How is it affecting the program, United Neighborhoods? I mean, are we still moving forward with providing housing?
This is very recent. I mean, we just started having this discussion about a week ago, so it hasn't had any effect just yet, but it will in the future, which is I think what Ms. King is talking about.
Okay.
So we have to find another trainer, and
there's got to be other trainers out there, right?
There are. The problem is they have to be HUD certified, and they're a little bit more difficult to find.
But I think that you're going down the right path if you ask HUD who could do these types of courses, right?
Yeah, we'll find somebody, and if not, when Hammond Housing hires a new person, we can get them to start offering the course, and
Great.
we'll be back on track.
Michelle, is there any input from Hammond Housing? Oh, so she just quit? Oh, good for her. Okay. We'll get through this, right? So it won't be necessarily an employee. It might just be a consultant that comes in and teaches a course then, or?
Could be, again, as long as they're HUD certified, that's the key. Because we had some training going on in the past, and HUD basically told us they must be HUD certified or they don't qualify for HUD funds.
Okay. Great. We answer your question, Ms. King?
Well, my only concern is once the classes are back in order, that they do be 8-hour, because my understanding was the classes that were at the Hammond Housing, they were not an 8-hour certified HUD class. They were during the week, and for the most part, during the day, and it was not accommodating the constituents that really need this program. The programs were prior in the evening, and they were an 8-hour certified class. So hopefully when the classes do continue, that they follow HUD regulations, that they are actually 8-hour, and that they could be in the evening so that we can accommodate more people.
Great.
It is an issue with the realtors because I get a lot of calls, and what has happened with the program, has it been suspended, and I haven't been able to give them an answer. Thank you.
I have a real good relationship with the realtors also. I get endorsed. I've been endorsed 3 times by them now, so I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'll make sure, if we have an issue. And by the way, one of my former top-ranking employees went off to run the Greater Northwest Indiana Association of Realtors, Pete Novak, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Okay. Yeah, how you doing, sir?
I don't get it? I'll wrestle you for it. Okay. I just want to piggyback on the homebuyer classes. I've been honored to work with United Neighborhoods and Hammond most recently on their homebuyer seminars, and I teach the financing part of it for a little while. And I just want to tell you that I have been in this a long time, and I have never seen a neighborhood do what these folks do for first-time buyers. And this is good for your community because people need this type of education. They need to know what it takes to actually own a house after this housing debacle has happened. So what's going on here needs to continue because the people who get in these houses have a lower tendency of foreclosure because of the education they're given. And this is good for your neighborhood. And the incentives that they get for buying a house here only goes back into the neighborhood because they have more money to use here. You're getting younger people in here, you're getting better buyers. And so I really commend you guys for all the work you've put into this, and I hope to continue to work with you as well. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. In fact, I don't like to point out this fireman's name because he'll get terrorized and he goes back to the firehouse, but let's just say that there's a Hammond fireman in here right now that participated in this program and moved into a house in the city of Hammond, which is a great thing. That's a big problem right now is Indiana state law allows public safety workers, police and fire, to live outside of Hammond, and it's obviously something most mayors don't agree with. I have to say that in this case, I'm really proud that this Hammond fireman participated in this exact program we're talking about, and it helped him to buy a house in the city. So I want to say thank you to him, and I'm not going to name his name, but he's in here right now, and I'm doing it for his own safety, because when he goes back to the firehouse, if the mayor says any fireman's name, it's usually a bad day for that fireman. So anyway, thanks to that fireman. So anyway.
Okay, new topic, flood zone. The city worked diligently with FEMA to get the homes and businesses east of Northcott out of the floodplain. When will the city begin the process to get the remaining homes and businesses removed from the floodplain?
I'm sorry, I was looking around. Are we talking about Robertsdale, or are we talking about Little Cal? Little Cal? Okay. The current status is basically along the Little Cal, if you live east of Northcott, which is basically Cabela's, the former Woodmar Country Club, east, you're out of the floodplain because of the work that Little Calumet River Basin Authority did and the city of Hammond did by hiring a consultant that used to work for FEMA to petition on Hammond and Highland's behalf to get you out of the floodplain. If we didn't do that, which we had a great, in fact, I gave the gentleman a key to the city, if we didn't do that, you would still be waiting to get out of the flood zone, along with everybody that lives west of Northcott. To those of you west of Northcott, I know that we're getting close, and this is where I'm going to pass the baton off to my city engineer, Stan DeStotney, so he could talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, we've already started the process for the Lomar, for the people from Northcott over the state line. One of the issues that needs to be resolved, but is that the Army Corps needs to finish that levee. There's a missing segment of levee from Lyman Avenue over to Holman Avenue that needs to be constructed. There's some improvements to the levee then from Holman Avenue over to State Line, and a closure structure to go up State Line Avenue because the levee on the Illinois side is 1.5 feet lower than the levee on the Indiana side. Once that's all completed, we're going to be out. We're going to hit the ground running because we're going to have all our paperwork ready as soon as the work is finished. We have the same engineering firm, Christopher Burke, working on it. He started about 3-4 months ago, so we'll have everything ready to go, and we'll get you out as soon as we can.
I don't like to make promises when we're dealing with the federal government because they're frustrating. And the Cabela's property, Northcott East, should have happened way sooner than it did. There was no excuse to keep people in the flood zone. How long did we wait on that one, Stan?
FEMA didn't want to let us out. We were setting a precedent. City of Hammond was one of the first cities to actually take, thousands of homes out of the floodplain. Not only in the Little Calumet River Basin, but also up by George Lake and up by Wolf Lake. We have a much smaller number of homes that are still in the floodplain than what we had before this all started. And I know when Tom says, "Hey, we need to get these people out in the next 3 to 4 years," and it took us like 5 or 6 years.
It was ridiculous.
Because FEMA was fighting us. They didn't want to lose that revenue. So
I don't know what happened. I like to give our congressman credit and say I think Pete made a phone call because it was just out of the blue. We were fighting with these people for years, and it was crazy. There was no reason. If you lived east of Northcott, you had a completely finished levee. It was certified. It was ready to go. We literally had to apply to FEMA and get people out of flood zone. 1,000 homes and a lot of commercial properties. It was basically Hessville, Woodmar, like huge stretches of the city coming out of the flood zone. And FEMA sat on it for months. I dare say years. And it made no sense. And then one day, bam, mayor, we got everybody out of the flood zone. No rhyme or reason to it. They just like some bureaucrat said, okay, let's move forward with this. And then everybody was out, and it was a happy day for us. We got to send out 1,000 letters to you saying, congratulations, we got your property out of the flood zone. It could have been a couple years earlier, but that's the way the federal government works. So when you ask, when are we going to get out? I tell you, once the levee's complete, you can get out right away, but it's not our decision. It's FEMA's decision, and that could be weeks, could be months, could be years. I hope, and the good thing that Stan brought up is we hired a gentleman from Christopher Burke Engineering named Sivash that works for FEMA, and he is very, very technical. He knows his stuff. He worked for him for years, and he just pokes holes in their theory. And finally, they just relented and let us out. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. We've been successful in Hammond. Stan pointed out, in Robertsdale, we were successful in getting a huge part of Robertsdale out of the flood zone, and we had literally pockets of people in Robertsdale still left. I have good news for you. We're not ready to totally announce it at this point, but very, very shortly, because we have to wrap up a couple things before we come out with it. We've been very successful getting homes out of the flood zone. In Robertsdale, east of Northcott, the last part we have is that area west of Northcott. And believe me, we're painfully aware that you're still paying flood insurance. I want you to be out just as bad as you do, I promise. Okay? This is a great topic, so you want to ask questions?
What part is the city playing in the tieback on state line?
Funny enough, and I'm going to pass for a technical question off to Stan. Funny enough, the curb that we built is coming into a good use as far as flood control is concerned. Stan?
Yeah, Army Corps has actually designed a block system so that we could set it up relatively quick. We'd have to run it up state line about 1,800 feet.
And Stan, the reason is because you said our levees are 1.5 feet higher than Illinois.
That's correct.
So if we had a flood and our levees were at the max, all it would do is go into Illinois and drain back in Indiana, right?
Yeah, which is how it flooded back in 1984?
Right.
When it flooded, water was coming in from the Illinois side. We actually built a earthen levee right on State Line Avenue and then stopped the flooding right at the state line.
So the theory is we would have we would have to react quickly and build a temporary barrier along.
Yeah, we
the
would.
curb.
Right now, we're kind of looking at storing them over by the sanitary district pump station over on Homan Avenue, and these would be blocks that we could lift up with a payloader and then just set them in place, and they'd interlock, and then we would just use the curb on State Line Avenue as our guide.
That curb's coming in handy, isn't it? Just kidding. Some people still hate me for that, so I don't want to make jokes about it. Yes, ma'am. Leave the curb.
Ever take it down?
The curb?
Yes.
I don't know who will ever take that down.
No, the
The barrier, the curb.
Use the curb as a guideline and leave the barriers.
Oh, you're talking 174th and 175th?
No,
Oh.
just all the way down state
Oh,
line.
yeah. Oh, I got you. Once you put the barriers in, leave them there? I got you. You know, the question was, well, I don't know if you meant this question. I thought the question was, will the curb is part of Hammond for the long haul? Just like, and I always go back to this because I get asked this question as mayor. And, you know, especially if I'm at regional stuff, Gary people always bring up to me, Mayor, when are you going to take down that blockade that blocks 165th from Gary? And I tell them, it's never going to happen. This was a decision that Hammond made in the 1970s under Mayor Wiskowski, I believe? 1981. Thank you, Ron. Under Mayor Wiskowski, he made that decision. I don't see that ever coming down. It's a permanent change to the traffic pattern, and the curb on State Line was a permanent change to the traffic pattern, and that's one of the rationales, and I'm bringing up 174th and 175th. That was one of the rationales we used is we're permanently changing traffic flows in Hammond. If the neighborhood's not into it, if the neighborhood's nonchalant about it, we're talking about a permanent change. I'm not comfortable making a permanent change if the neighbors don't totally support it. Now, we will forward, you know, maybe we'll revisit this issue in April or May and talk to the neighbors and see if they're happy with what we have right now and if they want to keep talking about it. But I take it seriously. If we're changing traffic patterns in Hammond, it's got to be buy-in. There's got to be buy-in from the neighborhood. So, all right. Any other questions on flooding? Great. Michelle?
Okay, what's the status of Hammond's plan to sell water to towns in Illinois?
Great question. Tough question. Ed? I'll fill in the gaps. No. Why don't you start and just talk about what we are currently, and then I'll sort of fill in the gaps from the state of the city, okay?
I didn't quite hear the entire question, but
It doesn't happen very often that Ed gets asked questions from the water department. I think he was snoozing, actually. So the question is, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you just talk about the current situation, how we sell water in Illinois, and then I'll talk about the other issues, okay?
currently City of Hammond wholesales water to a number of our neighboring communities, Calumet City, Lansing, Linwood, Chicago Heights, Glenwood, Thornton, South Holland, and Burnham. Recently, the mayor of Chicago decided that he wanted to do an $800 million bond issue to rebuild his water mains and sewer mains, and he's going to finance it by raising his water rates and his wholesale water rates throughout the Chicago area to $3.81 a thousand. As an example, the residents of Hammond pay 46 cents a thousand. So our wholesale market to our neighbors is a very attractive opportunity to Hammond, and we haven't been able to raise our rates nearly enough to cover the cost of running the water department and helping the city of Hammond, and we're going to be able to adjust our rates up with the wholesale water sales to Illinois.
Now, right now, you said something, Ed. Hammond residents, when they buy our water, are getting it for 46 cents on the thousand?
Correct.
And right now, what is Chicago charging its customer communities right now per thousand?
Right now, they're charging their water users and their residents $2.50 a thousand gallons.
So they're 5 times higher than us.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the interesting thing about the water department is when Ed sells water to Munster, we do, and to Highland. When we sell water to Munster, can you charge them $2.50, Ed?
No.
Why not?
We're regulated by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and they require us to sell the water at 46 cents a thousand to Indiana wholesale customers.
Which is interesting because Munster buys our water at 46 cents on the thousand and charges their residents
$2.93.
They're making money off our water. We can't make money off our water, but they can make money off our water. So you start asking yourself, why do we sell water to Indiana? If I could sell water to Illinois for $2.50, why am I selling it to Munster for 50 cents so that they could charge their residents $3 and make all the money? It doesn't make sense for Hammond to sell water to Indiana anymore. We're lucky. Hammond's the luckiest city in America in regards to water, bar none. We are next door to Chicago, and we control the border all the way down to Dyer. So let's say East Chicago, and I hate pointing this out because Mayor Copeland gets mad at me, and we're friends and we'll get past this, okay? He has 8 million gallons he could sell right now. And if he wanted to sell to Illinois, he would have to go through us. And it really wouldn't make a lot of sense for us to let him through because we could sell water to Illinois ourselves. So why don't we buy it from Mayor Copeland for 46 and sell it to Chicago Heights for 250, right? So what we're saying is this. I brought it up in my State of the City, and there's obvious concern in the community that we're looking to sell our water department. And I'm going to come clean. This is news, and I know I have a reporter in the audience, and I'm on GoHammond.tv. I'm going to say something that we haven't said since the State of the City. We're not going to sell our water department. We've not looked into that. We've looked into it. It just seemed like a big bite. And I think we could make a deal with the water department and keep control or privatize somehow, but we're not selling the water department. We haven't said that publicly yet, right, Ed?
That's correct.
In fact, I have a few people that are probably going to want to kick my butt when I get out of here for saying that. But I'm just being honest. We're not looking at that anymore. We're looking at maximizing our contracts now with Illinois. What we have right now, we're very, very lucky. I said it a couple times. Cal City contract is up now. Chicago Heights contract is up now. Cal City sells to Lansing?
They sell to Burnham.
Burnham, excuse me. We have a contract with Lansing already. We have a contract with Chicago Heights, and they branch out to like 2 or 3 different communities with their water. We have an opportunity right now. What is Chicago Heights paying for water currently?
Currently, they're paying 52 cents a thousand.
They're paying
and
almost
have been
what we
for
pay.
the last 30 years.
And for the last 30 years. And it made sense because 30 years ago, they built a pipeline from Hammond to Chicago Heights. They were way out ahead of this issue. Give them credit. But unfortunately for them, their contract is up, and it's not going to be 52 cents anymore. So Chicago Heights water rates are going to go into the $2 or higher range. I'm not going to be specific, but it's going to be a lot higher than what they have paid. And so is Cal City. It's going to be a lot higher than what they did pay. And if they say, no way, Mayor, we're not paying it, all right, go talk to Mayor Emanuel. He's charging 25% more than we are. We're lucky. We control the border all the way down to Dyer. That means if you were planning to sell water to Illinois and you weren't Hammond, you would have to go south of Dyer to do it. We're lucky. So what we're doing is focusing on these contracts and working in partnership with the water department to maximize revenue so that I can start paying my police and firemen and everybody else to try to offset some of the pain that we have. It's a good plan, and it's going to work. And I tell you, I said this, a lot of people think about gaming in Hammond. I appreciate gaming. I'm thinking about water now. That's our future. Water and location. We're right next to Chicago. Who knows what they're going to be charging 20 years from now? They may be charging $10 per thousand. I think that we need to focus less on selling to Indiana and more on expanding our reach in Illinois, and Hammond, Indiana will be better off for it. We'll all be better off for it. So I did say something we haven't said publicly, and I'm glad I said it. We are not looking to privatize that department. We're not looking to sell that department. We're looking to maximize revenue for us. That's what we're looking to do. Anything else? Ed? I know our city controller was involved in that. Bob, anything? All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir. George, how you doing?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you anticipate any resistance from, say, Senator Durbin? This is an election year.
Great question.
Chicago money, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, this is a legitimate issue. So will the Illinois legislature pass some type of law that prohibits Hammond from selling water to Illinois?
Or the feds.
Or the feds.
Will they intervene in some way, shape, or form?
Well, the interesting thing is the watershed is a lot different in Illinois. Ed, why don't you jump in on that? What are we going to tell Mayor of Cal City if she doesn't want to pay over $2 for water? I mean?
She can go, pay $2.50 a thousand this year and up to $3.81 a thousand by 2015.
So you're giving her a good deal at 2 and change.
Exactly. And I mean, who could blame her? All of the communities that we sell to in Illinois are granted a state allocation from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. So they have a maximum amount of Lake Michigan water that they can take out themselves or buy from another source that gets the water from Lake Michigan, and that's how they're buying it from us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just concerned if there was going to be any, let's call it competition, if Mayor Emanuel was just going to sit there and say, oh, I'm going to concede this. Yeah, like he said, like Ed said, he wants to fund this new 800 million, was it, or 800 billion, whatever it was, project. And I didn't think he's going to let old Tom McDermott walk in there and say, hey.
I'm sure he doesn't like us very much. He doesn't like our gaming. He doesn't like our water. And that's fine. He doesn't have to like me. He doesn't vote for me. I do want to point out, we looked at a lot of different scenarios on the sale idea, on the privatization idea. One of the ideas that we were looking at was, would Chicago Water be interested in purchasing our water and just, shutting off the border? What's that worth to Mayor Emanuel to shut the mayor of Hammond up and to buy that water company so that there isn't that disparity anymore? Believe me, that was definitely discussed. There was a lot of issues discussed. How much is it worth? Some people said it's worth $250 million right now. Some people said, Mayor, you could get $700 million right now. We were all over the place, George. We really studied this. We had great lawyers that do this kind of stuff. And we literally, if we were going to continue down the path of privatization, we were looking at $1 million legal fees, easy, maybe multi-million-dollar legal fees. And that's where I started getting nervous is when I'm running up multi-million-dollar legal fees, I have to look at you all once a month at mayor's night and explain, hey, there's a reason we're doing this. But we just felt like, I felt like, what happens if we do sell this? In 20 years from now, people are talking about Tom McDermott selling the water department like it was the worst mistake ever made in Hammond. We could be sitting on the diamond mine 20 years from now. Who knows? Water, 20 years from now, that may be the oil that today. We may be like Iraq 20 years from now with sitting on the water of Lake Michigan. And we may be a wealthy city because of that. I didn't want to take the chance and pass up that opportunity. So, questions? This is an important topic. Yes, sir.
Water can come out of Lake Michigan.
Great question.
Because of Canada has rights.
Great question.
I do have a question. It's not the
No,
water.
could I touch on that and then we'll come back to your question? I want to touch on that. Ron, grab the microphone from Department of Environment. So these are some of the questions. Can we build, our plant right now does 75 million gallons a day, Ed?
Correct.
Okay, how about this? Can we build a plant that sucks 1 billion gallons a day out of Lake Michigan and just sell water everywhere? That's where the Great Lakes Compact that you're talking about comes in. Ron, could you explain a little about that?
Yeah, there's allocations for each particular state. I mean, that's not an infinite supply. So each state is allocated X amount of dollars, and you have a cap on that. So within that cap, you have flexibility. Above the cap, now you're talking about problems with additional states.
And countries. It's a treaty that we made with Canada, and we're part of that. So can we draw unlimited amounts of water from Lake Michigan? No. but there is wiggle room. There is opportunities to change that down the road, but we also have some homework to do if we're going to do that, right, Ed?
That's correct, and that's tied into the watershed. You know, you only sell water outside the Lake Michigan watershed if you can prove that it's finding its way back. Once the water is used, it's going to form sewer water, treated sewer water, and finds its way back to Lake Michigan. That's the rule to.
So if you wanted to sell water, if you did a pipeline to West Lafayette, Indiana, and West Lafayette says, listen, Ed, I don't care about the IURC, I'll pay $3 for Lake Michigan water. You couldn't do it?
Unless they could prove they're going to build a pipeline for treated sewage water so it makes it back to Lake Michigan.
And that's not realistic. So the fact is you couldn't.
Not feasible.
The interesting thing is, in Illinois, their watershed's a lot bigger than our watershed. So we have more opportunity in Illinois to sell water than we do even in Indiana. Not that we really want to sell water to Indiana anymore. Doesn't make sense financially. Now you had a question.
Yeah, that was in regards to our sewerage fee is double the water bill. When is that going to stop? I mean, it was because of the problems at the sanitary district and discharging into...
I'm looking for my lifeline here. I think Stan's the only representative from the district. No. He's like, we're across the street from his house. Somebody go get Mike Unger. What's going on here? He lives literally, I could throw a rock and hit his house from here. Maybe I will after. But Stan, you're going to have to answer the question now.
The sewage treatment fees based on what the EPA, how they want us to actually treat the water before it ends up back in the rivers and streams. And right now they've got a big push on CSOs. They don't want any CSOs. We're going to have to spend $77 million eliminating CSOs into the Grand Cal River.
CSOs and
combined
normal
sewer
English.
overflow. What that is during a large rain event, storm and sanitary water mixes together in a system and it goes out to the river. Right now that happens maybe 90 times every year. They don't want it to happen more than 3 or 4 times. Our sewage treatment rates are still the cheapest in the state of Indiana.
Even after?
Right now.
Right.
Right now they are. They are the least expensive on a per 1,000-gallon basis in the whole state of Indiana.
And that's a big issue right now because the council it's approved all financial matters like that have to go through the city council, and they just had this issue sitting on their plate. It's not an easy thing to do to approve bond sales that are ultimately going to be paid by us and our sanitary user fees. But what the feds are looking at is, as Stan said, we have 90 CSO events every year. That's engineer speak. What that means is 90 times the rain was so heavy that our plant couldn't keep up, and what happens is it starts belching raw sewage into the Grand Calumet River. Right?
Right.
I mean, it sounds a lot nicer to say CSO event than it says to say we were dumping raw sewage in the Grand Calumet River. That's not a good situation, okay? And it's been going on for years. Obviously, the federal government's trying to stop that, and they worked with us on a plan where we're going to build basically a catch basin. And it's going to go where Irving Little League fields were, and that catch basin is going to, in these heavy rain events, we're going to store that water, that raw sewage that used to go in the Grand Calumet. It's going to be stored in that retention basin. It's like 20 million gallons, or how big is it?
I think it's 25 million gallons until there's capacity at the plant to actually treat it. The city of Indianapolis recently sold their water filtration plant to help for their CSO reduction program, which is estimated to be almost $1 billion. So, you know, this is happening all over the country. This isn't only in Hammond. Everybody's under the gun. You know, back in 1939, they didn't even treat sewage. All of it went back out into the rivers and streams. Sewage treatment is a relatively new technology, and it's still evolving, and they're still making us change processes and spend a lot money, you know, spend much more money trying to treat it.
Well, that's why the Chicago River was reversed,
Yeah.
so that the sewage didn't...
Now they want to reconnect it.
Was going into the lake.
Because of the carp, right?
Yeah, because of the carp. Bad idea, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Any other questions? I don't remember what the topic is. Sanitary? Water? There you go, water.
I think my concern would be the quality of the drinking water with all the environmental issues and global warming and, you know. with all this talk about water, that...
Are you talking about the CSO events, Ms. King?
I don't know what you said. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, first...
You would have to break it, explain it.
Okay. We have Aquafina.
The quality of water would...
Hammond water?
Aquafina is Hammond water.
Okay, well,
that's
my
Hammond
concern.
water. With one more filter, right?
Water, I could drink
There
it.
is, I mean, I believe the question's about water quality.
Yes, sir.
Water quality. I mean,
Annually,
there are times when the water does have a horrible taste, and I have called.
Okay.
And so.
I mean, it is few and far between that we ever get a complaint about taste and odor in the water. Our water is charcoal filtered. It is very high quality water, and annually we are obligated to send out a water quality report. It's mailed to every resident in the city of Hammond, and it's sent out annually. And we send it out because it's law.
I've been mayor 9 years, eight and change. I've never had a complaint about Hammond water, how it tastes. I mean, literally, I haven't. And I've had every complaint thrown at me, I think, for the most part. I don't get this complaint very often, if ever. I mean, in all due respect to Ms. King, I think our water is outstanding. I really do. And how far out does that pipeline go out into Lake Michigan where it pulls in? So
almost a mile and a half.
Mile and a half out in Lake Michigan. So there's no contamination as far as the intake is concerned.
There's no I mean, we test our water regularly, daily. There used to be a situation in the fall where the algae would die off, and we would get some taste and odor problems. When we added granulated activated carbon, which is charcoal, to filter during those events, and those events were typically August through end of October. It resolved the problem. We've continued to do that practice, and once again, I mean, we rarely get a complaint about taste or odor in the water.
Okay. Well, we got one.
Actually, there are 3 intake pipes.
I worked in the water department in 57, 58, and I know no water was pumped out from the holding tanks at the filtration plant until the lab approved it.
Correct, sir.
And I know the charcoal, I used to have to lay under a railroad car and hook up the vacuum hose to bring it in. Not a good job.
Well, thanks for your service. We appreciate it. Part of our good fortune in Hammond is the water department, so thanks for helping with that. Yeah, they do. They do. Anyway, water issues. That was a good topic. Let's move on. Oh, did you have one, sir? In the back?
No.
Oh, you're just bringing Aquafina out.
Did you need another water?
No, I'm good. Thanks. We're giving a lot of plugs for Aquafina today, so. All right, next topic.
Will there be a bike path at Lyman now that the tracks are gone?
I love this. I'm going to give it to my chief of staff because he looks like he's bored. So, Tom, why don't you answer the question for that?
The answer is yes. We actually have been working with an engineering firm to design it. We're working with the commuter transportation district to acquire an easement through. We believe that we could be in construction by sometime in early mid-May. Correct, Stan? So we're hoping to have the path done actually by the middle of summer.
And while we're on the topic, why don't you talk about the deadline that you have on the Monon bike path that's going to be built?
Well, the deadline is that we're trying to organize an all-night ride Hammond-Whiting. If you're familiar at all with bicyclists, there's an event held in Chicago every year called the All-Night Ride Chicago, or Late Night Ride, and it attracts about 30,000 bicyclists. Valparaiso last year held its first all-night ride and attracted about 1,500 bicyclists, and we want to do the same in Hammond. Bike riding is something that really can attract good quality residents. It's proven to have been very effective in other areas of the country, and Hammond actually in the next 4 years will probably triple its total off-road paved bike path system. So it's really an opportunity for us to promote what we have, what we're building, and what we're planning.
And the Monon has been a problem for years, and I see former Councilwoman Kim Poland, and I didn't see her because she's hiding behind Ms. Foster there, and I see you, Kim. the councilwoman worked with us every year on a problem that we always had, which was the right-of-way along Lyman, and just how it becomes overgrown, and it's scary because it's overgrown, and bad things can happen when plants are overgrown, and it seemed like every year we were knocking that down just to keep it open. One of the good things about that bike path going down there is it's going to clear all that out, and obviously people have been wondering what we're going to do with that right-of-way for years and years. I think until the South Shore comes up with a plan, because that's what eventually what they, the big thinkers of the region, want to have happen, is the South Shore eventually is going to come through south through Hammond, and it's going to go down to Munster at Calumet and 45th. That's the plan. They're a long way away from that happening.
Well, Mayor, even when it happens, we're working with them to plan that bike trail so that the bike trail will be able to coexist
Right.
with the railroad tracks.
And that's a good thing, but if we didn't do the bike trail, we would be sitting on that land with no plan for at least 10 years, maybe longer. So, and I'm glad Tom pointed that out, that this is moving forward this year. That Lyman right-of-way is going to become a new part of our bike trail network. It's going to increase the number of bike trail options we have in the city. They do have a deadline, I'm saying publicly, because that all-night ride is a great idea. I'd like to get more than 1,500 people out there because we're bigger than Valparaiso. We could do better than them in that regard. But, and another good fortune thing we have with the bike trails is the Little Calumet River Basin Authority has been creating bike trails along the levee on the Little Cow, which is increasing our options. I mean, we look at the map all the time, and we're starting to connect up bike trails that have been existing for years, and eventually they're going to be able to ride all over the city of Hammond on a bike, which is a good goal to have, because it's good for the environment, it's good for our health, it's good for our kids. As long as it's safe, it's good for our kids, and that's something that's very important to us. So, bike trails, any questions about that? Yes, ma'am. We don't have a date picked yet, do we? When the question was, when is the all-night ride?
We're looking at early August. The Chicago ride is actually the first weekend of July. And then, of course, we run into a series of festivals and other events around here. So we're probably looking at early August to run it this year. And again, you know, the mayor said he'd like to see more than 1,500. I'd like to see more than 1,500 as well. But if we get anywhere around 1,000 or 1,500 bicyclists in the first year, we're doing very, very well. There are major cities that have organized all-night rides, and you know they have 5,000 and 6,000 bicyclists. So we'd be in very good shape if we got that many.
So we want to do it after Pierogi Fest, after Festival of Lakes, definitely, because we don't want to conflict with those. So it'll be in August. Questions? Yes, sir.
To have a fence along Lyman?
Good question. Who's here from Parks? Who's here from Parks? Oh, hey. Hey, Donna. Oh, Pat got away with sending you today, huh?
When I talked to the engineer, he mentioned nothing about a fence. I don't think the funds would warrant it.
What's that?
I don't think the funds would warrant that.
No, I think the only plan right now is that NICD has said that, you know, if and when they put their tracks in, we'd have to put a fence basically separating the tracks and the trail. But there wouldn't be a fence running the perimeter of the trail itself. I will tell you, I grew up in Robertsdale. We had probably the first bike path actually in Hammond. Bike paths attract the right kind of people, not the wrong kind of people. I mean, they really don't. Funny story, about 30 years ago, the city of Whiting actually was approached when the city of Hammond built the George Lake Trail. The city of Whiting said, no, we don't want the trail because it's going to attract you know, the wrong people. And he's a good friend of mine, but it was Mayor Bob Bursick who said that. Well, when we cut the ribbon, the first person to walk down the trail and the person that you saw every single morning walking the trail was his wife. So you know, I always said, gee, you're right, I attracted the wrong people. But it really attracts the right people. It really does.
And I traveled to Indy a lot. I traveled on the Monon down in Indy, and just seeing some of the stuff that they did with that bike trail, and it's a jewel. It's something that we need in Hammond, and the stuff they did, the bridges they used to get over busy streets, and it's amazing. And I think we need that opportunity here. And we have a great bike trail, but one of the problems with it is you're cruising along, and then all of a sudden, bam, you got 165th, and you got cars going 50 miles an hour right in front of you. We want to get you over that traffic. We want to build bridges so that we'll fly you over that traffic, so that I wouldn't let Tommy, my 11-year-old, ride on that bike trail right now, because once he got to 165th, I'd be a nervous wreck. But if we know we can get them over on a bridge, it opens up the whole new world for our kids. So I think it's a good thing. You know, it's a long-term investment in the city because these bike bridges we're talking about are good for 50 years, Dan? Yeah. 50 years? 40, 50? So, I mean, once we put that investment in place, it's not going to go away. So, great question. I love it. Thank you. Next topic. Oh, Councilman Anthony Higgs, 3rd District. Nice to see you, Councilman.
Initially, after approaching the mayor's office and working with Mr. Daverton, we were able to get the railroad tracks removed. That was something that was very important to me. And in fact, Pat was constantly complaining he couldn't mow over there because of the railroad tracks. So I'm glad about the fact of that becoming a bike trail.
Thanks, Councilman. Appreciate it. All right, next topic.
This is regarding the swimming pool at the Civic Center. When will it reopen, and when will remodeling of the facilities be completed?
Okay. And before Donna jumps in, I want to point out that we started a renovation in the Civic Center a couple years ago. A good friend of mine approached me and said, hey, you know, when's the last time we did anything in the Civic Center? And a lot of us thought about it. There hasn't been a lot of upgrades to the Civic Center in quite a while.
75 years old this April.
Right.
75 years old.
The Civic Center is. Okay. But so we have a process we're going through where we're upgrading the basement with the workout facility, the pool, the locker rooms and stuff like that. So why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about that, Donna?
The pool will be reopened by the end of next week, hopefully. We're awaiting some parts and then it needs to be reinspected. So by the end of next week, the pool will be reopened. The women's locker rooms are set to be completed in March, and the rest of phase 1 of the project will be by mid-May.
Why don't you talk about the whole project? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3?
Since I'm just involved in phase 1 right now, that's pretty much all I know about, and that's
basically
reconstruction.
All right. I'm looking for a lifeline. Who's going to help me here? Pat Senior's
pretty
not
much
here.
Pat, and he's not here, but they totally are redoing the men's and women's locker rooms and taking out, and totally, it looks completely different. Right now it's a mess, but it's going to be great.
Great.
It's awesome.
Well, it's good to see us reinvesting money in the Civic Center, and it's a jewel for our city. So thanks, Donna. Any
Should
questions?
be this phase by the end of May, though.
Thank you. Any follow-ups on that? The project's going on right now. I remember, was it our inauguration? No, it was during the Martin Luther King event. It was real quiet, and we were in there, and we were talking about Dr. King, and all of a sudden some guy was downstairs with a sander or something, and we went down there, and that was the first time I saw it, but it's really, really nice what's going on down there. I'm looking forward to it opening. Anyway, next topic.
They wanted to comment on the city's handling of junkyard on Kennedy Avenue.
Yes, sir. Kennedy Avenue, where?
All concerned in the city that the place, Chief Mueller sent 3 tow trucks. They towed 12 cars away. That was on a Thursday, and the guy packed up and left on a Saturday.
Okay.
So now there was another guy in there the next week, and he's just left. He just couldn't make it.
Okay. Kelly Kearney's Hammond Code Enforcement. Kelly, could you help us out with this?
After many complaints, the repair shop there had vehicles that were just littered throughout the parking lot. If you were a customer, there was no place to park. You basically parked covering the sidewalk. Warned the gentleman, cited the gentleman. He'd come in compliance, do it again. Issued another citation. Went in, personally asked him to take care of the situation. Didn't do it. Had a court date, didn't come. Order to appear, didn't come. I went and asked him again, take care of the situation. He wouldn't do it. Through Scott Holbrook and some other officers, State Auto Body came and towed all the vehicles that he didn't have paperwork for and that weren't plated properly and were junk.
Good. All right. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Hey, I'd like to remind everybody, we also have a Friday morning radio show that I do every week, and it's sort of like Mayor's Night, except for it's more entertaining, I'd like to think, and it's a little bit shorter. But if you have issues that you bring up, one of the things that the department heads are really good at is either them or their employees are listening to the show. And you'll have complaints like maybe your recycling got missed or something. Not that that ever happens, Steve, but if your recycling was missed, we'd had people call the show and say, Mayor, the guys passed my house up again, and this happens all the time, and the guys wouldn't even call me. They would know, once the complaint came into the radio show, that they would go to that house and they would pick up the recycling. This has happened a couple times on the air. It's a really good tool, and it's good to keep in touch with what's going on with your city. So I would like to encourage you every Friday morning, without fail, well, outside of special events, but the WJOB morning radio show with me and Michelle. So every Friday morning, 7:35. So anyway, that was a commercial break. Let's jump back in for the fun.
How will the no handwriting for Indiana schools affect our children?
Okay, that's the second time I've been asked a question I didn't know the answer to, or I've never been asked before. How will the no handwriting rule affect, the no cursive rule affect us and our kids? Who wants that one? Chief Miller? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So Tom Daverton wants it. It's like that show where I go for landlines. Yeah. That's what the...
It's open to debate. Indiana, however, is not the first state to end cursive as mandatory instruction. I mean, when you look at the youth today, the adults of tomorrow, there's a lot of things that they do that we don't do. I mean, I can sit here and try and send a text message, and it takes me forever, and my son and daughter can do it like that. Modern technology has changed a lot of things. I have some concerns about people not being able to learn cursive. However, as my former high school English teacher told me Friday night when she ran into me, she said, well, you didn't learn it very well either. So again, times change. It's really I have to say the jury's out on this one. It really is. But it's a state decision. It's not something that we can control locally.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I have a feeling I know who asked that question.
So I was going to ask, that's not something that's been, it's not, I guess, set in stone yet? Or,
well,
what I read was that it will be in effect next school
What the state is saying is they're no longer requiring it, okay? I do know that the diocesan schools basically have not made a decision yet as to whether they're going to go along with the change. Each local school district, I believe, would still be able to teach cursive if they want to. I mean, it's not a prohibition by any means. It's just simply saying that it's no longer a requirement.
Okay.
Thank you. How's your little guy doing? I've been watching him. Yeah, he wants to shoot baskets. Hey, little guy, how's it going? Hey, all right. Hey, I wanted to make sure we cover a couple things before we let go. Jeff Smith, the Hammond Fire Chief, has a great event he wants to talk about.
On March 16th at Central Fire Station, we're having a St. Baldrick's event. If you're not familiar with it, they raise money. This organization raises money for child cancer, for research. It's a process where you come to the Central Fire Station and you can sign up online. You can get your head shaved. The money that's donated, like I said, goes towards cancer research. You can be a shavee. You can help out during the event. We're going to have refreshments and stuff like that. I think WJOB is going to be there also. Lakeshore TV is going to be there. And it's March 16th from 4 to 7. So this gray hair won't be here much longer.
That's great. I mean, I'd like to give kudos to the Fire Chief, Jeff Smith, for putting this together. This is his first year as Fire Chief, and he has a lot on his plate, and he also took this on. I know that there's and we're not going to talk about the particulars, but we have a Hammond firefighter whose daughter is going through a horrible ordeal right now.
One of our firefighters' daughter was diagnosed in April with brain cancer, and I went to a St. Baldrick's event last year and got the idea, and I talked to a couple people about it, so we decided to put one on in honor of her. So the money doesn't go directly to her, it goes to the research to St. Baldrick's, but in St. Baldrick's, they donate more money to cancer research than anybody except the United States government. So it's a really, I mean, they're held all over the country. I know there's probably 15 in the area. So if you could come out to Central Fire Station on that day.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Let's give him a big round of applause, please. Thank you. Good to see it. Thank you. Yeah, a couple of your firemen are back there making fun of you right now, Jeff. So. Are they? Yeah? Nice. I'd like to next recognize Courtney Sazwa, sorry, Courtney is going to talk, she's the coordinator of the College Bound program, and we have some dates coming up with high school students and also deadlines that parents should know about.
Hi. Starting March 6th, Mayor McDermott and Tom Dabberton and myself, we travel to all the high schools in Hammond, obviously including Bishop Knoll and the charter school as well, to talk to all the high school students, freshmen through senior, about the College Bound Scholarship Program. As of right now, eligible students, of course, number one, your parents have to be homeowners here in the city of Hammond. And then secondly, there are certain academic requirements to qualify, but the maximum award right now is $9,100 per year for 4 years towards tuition and fees to any accredited college or university in the state of Indiana. Our first stop is going to be Bishop Knoll. Probably in the next couple months, you'll see the college-bound students, home for spring break. And then over the summer, the only thing they have to do to repay us is just volunteer 40 hours a week. You see them in college-bound t-shirts. A lot of them go to the parks and the golf course, Festival of the Lakes, and even the schools now doing their volunteer hours. So if you have a student graduating high school this year or a college-bound recipient looking to reapply, the deadline is July 2nd, 2012. So everything has to be in my hand by July 2nd. And currently right now there's 480 students that receive this scholarship and over 100 that have actually graduated thanks to the College Bound Scholarship Program. So.
Interestingly enough, my son, both my sons go to St. John Bosco, and there's a college-bound student that's teaching 5th grade, I believe.
Right, yeah. She, Teresa Zimmerman Earl, she actually graduated from St. Mary's College thanks to College Bound. She did it in 4 years, no problem, and now she's actually, a 5th grade teacher at St. John Bosco.
It's actually nice to see them. Obviously that's the goal is when they graduate, we want them to come home and help us, and in this case, it's working perfectly. So it's a great program. It's been running smoothly, and we got some work to do on finding a permanent funding source for that, and that's something that we're taking upon ourselves, and I think we can find it. So thank you for bringing that up, Courtney. Anybody have any questions on those 2 commercial breaks we did? I have good news. Last question. So let's focus.
Actually, it's a thank you to the mayor.
The best kind of last questions.
Thank you for attending Senate last week and cooperating with our choice of the River Basin Commission.
Oh, thank you. That was nice. That's the situation. It's last year, there was a big fight in the State House. I was involved in it. And we killed what we thought was a bad bill. And this year, I have to give credit where credit is due. State Rep Ed Soliday is a Republican legislator out of Valparaiso, reached across the aisle and worked with me and worked with what we were concerned with the original bill, and he made the bill better. And bipartisanship is not really alive and well these days, and in this case it is. And I have to give Ed a lot of credit because him and I weren't liking each other very much last year, and he did a great thing. He reached across the aisle, made the bill better, and now I'm doing my part, and I'm helping him pass it. And it passed the House 84-10. It passed the Senate committees unanimously. I hope it passes the Senate. If it does, I know the governor's already indicated he's going to sign it. And finally, we will have a permanent source of funding for operations and maintenance of the Little Calumet River, which is important because we were talking about flood control earlier. Those of you that we got out of the flood zone, if we don't come up with a permanent source of funding to maintain that levee, FEMA's going to take that designation away and you'll end up going back in the floodplain. That's not a threat, that's fact. This is a good thing for us. It's not happy that it's going to cost $25 a year $45 a year, which really at the end of the day, it's $3 and change a month. But, nobody likes to see tax increases. But in this case, it's going to maintain a flood levee and, it's going to help us all. So I think we have some follow-ups on that. Yeah, we'll get to you, George. She's back there.
Mayor, I'm one of those that actively worked against you as a river basin. We lost half of our home, and I want to congratulate you. It takes a big man to join the people that didn't want you.
Thank you.
It's not that you personally, but we are very satisfied with our River Basin Commission as it is. They're answerable to us, and we're answerable to them. And we were very, very comfortable. And this was not a personal thing.
No,
but
it's
after
fine.
working with them for 3 years, and what you were saying to the people, most people don't realize that this river planning started really in 1962 when President Kennedy was president and John Glenn was navigating around the earth. Now that's a long time, that's 50 years, and that's why we were against any more what we would call interference or added delays. We were $100,000 damage to our home. We lost half of our home. So to us, we're
personal.
We're very, very personal. So and I was very, very proud of the region last week at the Senate, because I also spoke
were you
at
there?
the Senate. Yes.
I didn't see you.
After you left, it was open. There were 2 of us from the region that was asked to speak or volunteered to. And when you got up there, I was very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Because I've been a vocal against you.
It's okay. I'll forgive you.
But it was you were very instrumental in the last cog of getting things done in a proper way with nobody having any of their own personal agendas. I could not believe that actually, if you were there when the mayors of Hobart and Lake Station offered to go ahead with our plan on the promise we would give them what they want later. And I've never seen that in politics in Lake County ever.
You know what?
I've worked on campaigns with Glenn and Dowling, Ruskowski, and I used to live on Kenwood in Hessville and Eaton Street in Hammond. So I just want to commend you.
Thank
you.
you.
Hammond is lucky to have you.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You know, one of the things that people don't realize about Lake County, you hear people beating up on Lake County politics a lot, rightfully so in a lot of cases. One of the things that's really good in Northwest Indiana, the mayors work together very well. And that's important. And it's paying dividends in this case, because Brian Sedekor, Keith Soderquist, and Dave Uran, mayor of Lake Station, Hobart, and Crown Point, we're friends. I talk to these guys. I know their wives. We go out to dinner. So they're not comfortable right now going crossways with, you know, me and Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson on this issue, and it's paying dividends. And that's good. But you know what? If there was issues in their communities, I would feel uncomfortable going crossways with them as well. But overall, it's a real positive thing when mayors are getting along, especially in Lake County where we're cut into so many different pieces. We all do work together really well, and I think this is going to pass. And, you know, for a while there I was pessimistic, but I think it's going to pass the Senate. And I think it's going to, once it passes there, I know the governor's going to sign it. So, but that was really nice of you to say that. I appreciate it very much. And I know George had something also. Oh, Councilman Higgs? Did Councilman have something about Little Cal? No, not Little Cal. Okay, can we come back to you? All right, George?
Yeah, when's the vote on the, it went through the Appropriations Committee, and nothing was changed?
Tomorrow, thank you. Tomorrow? Yeah, it went through, and we were worried at first. It went through local government in the Senate and passed 9-0. And then they put it into another committee, and that's usually not a good thing. But in this case, it's because of money being involved. Oh, sure.
I talked to Senator Consolidate's assistant yesterday because we got news earlier in the day that Earlene Rogers and 3 other senators want to tack something on to the bill.
They do.
As of last night, that bill, that was not attached to that bill. And that will definitely, so in that respect, they're still trying, but as of this morning, I have not heard that they've been able to do that. Because outside of those four, nobody else was for it.
Right. And the thing we have to remember is the Senate's 37-13 Republican to Democrat. So Senator Rogers is a Democrat. She's one of the 13. I mean, even if she's successful and it becomes a party thing, which I don't think is going to happen because Senator Mervan's with us on this issue, it should get through the Senate without an amendment. And the important thing is if there's an amendment put on it, it has to go to a whole different level. It has to go to conference committee, and they have to work out the differences in the 2 versions that were passed. Things die in conference committee. So what we want in this case is we want this to get through the Senate clean with no amendments, and there'll be no reason for conference committee. Governor Daniels will sign it. Life goes on. We'll, you know, $3 and change a month will come out of those people and, you know, that send water to the Little Calumet River. And that's the way it should be. Last but not least, oh, do we have, I'm sorry, Mylan.
Will all
No, good question. This only concerns basically south of 173rd in Hammond, all the way along the stretch of the Little Calumet River.
Yeah, basically everybody in a floodplain, so
Right.
it's like Orchard Drive up to 173rd and then 173rd
In the Little
over,
Cal
and
floodplain, Mylan, yeah.
then it drops down over at Holman Avenue.
If you live in Robertsdale, if you live in this part of the city, this
Oh.
does not affect you. It only affects those of us 7,300 and south, basically, in Hammond, okay? So good question, thank you. All right, Councilman Higgs, how you doing?
Just wanted to say happy birthday to Awana.
Awana's birthday. Happy birthday, Awana.
And
Awana Miller, she's the head of community development. She does a great job for us, so happy birthday, Awana. Mayor's night out on a birthday?
And just one other thing, I think
Oh, yeah, no. I
Tomorrow-
lose votes when I sing.
tomorrow at 10 o'clock is the Black History Program. And
Thank you. That's tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Hammond City Hall. Followed up Friday at the Philistine Center at 6 o'clock, I believe. Two different Black History Month celebrations. Tomorrow at City Hall at 10 o'clock, Friday, 6 o'clock, okay? Any follow-up, any other issues? Yes, ma'am. Disability, what? Disabled?
Yeah.
Okay,
What department does it fall under?
what do you mean? The Disability Commission?
Yeah.
Disability Commission
You have
falls
a
under
board, don't you?
Awana, actually. Birthday girl. Hey, Awana. Happy birthday. You got a question?
What exactly does that board do?
That board is made up of about 9 individuals throughout the city. Currently, they're working on their annual awards breakfast, which they honor individuals who are disabled in our city. They honor businesses who hire those disabled in our city. That breakfast is going to be March the 22nd at the Dynasty. In addition to that, they make sure that they take in any complaints from the disabled, whether it's dealing with the buses or with businesses not being in compliance. They also have a ramp assistance program, and that's where they'll build ramps for individuals that are in need at no cost to the homeowner or to someone that's renting. So there's a number of things that they do throughout the city.
Okay. Thanks for asking. And if you have any further questions, you can approach Awana after. And I wanted to close out and say thank you to everybody. Mayor's Night's successful because you guys come out and participate. I want to thank the department heads. I never really thank them, but every month I've been mayor for the last 8 years. They've been following me around the city at Mayor's Night Out. So thank you guys. Thank you for doing a great job. And thank you to Mayor's Night. Don't forget, this is on Go Hammond TV. And I will see you guys next Mayor's Night, which is
April.
April 25th at Hammond City Hall. Thank you, guys.